Hi there, my name is Dr. Heidi Fell, and in this video I'm going to show you how to manage the master problem list within Wolf. So in order to do this, you have to have administrator privileges within your clinic. So if you don't have those, this won't work, but if you do, what you do is you go to the configuration item here, and you open the configuration utility. Now this sometimes takes a couple of seconds to open, and that's okay. Most things in the configuration utility that you need to use are in the View menu. So we're going to choose the View menu, go down to Patient Reference Tables, look at the problem index. Now this will bring up a blank search screen, and we're going to show you how to manage problems within this. So we're going to look at hypertension, for example. So if your list looks like mine, you have a large number of items for hypertension. Okay? And how do these look? Well, if you want to look at the details of one of these, you always have to click on the first column within this utility. So we click here, and we can see that the items that Wolf has added are grayed out, and I can't alter the name or the internal ID. Okay? But what I can do is I can update the ICD-9 code if it's not appropriate. So if I want this to code as 401 instead of 401.9, for some reason, because that's my preference or because that's the code that you need to bill for in order to bill for an 0304J, I can just change that to my 401 at this point in time. Okay. Also, if I want to clean up my problem list so I only have a few choices regarding problems, I can put an end date in here. So I could say that after, well, that was interesting. Went away for a second. Let's pull that back up. After September the 20th, I don't want hypertension to be choosable as an option from my problem lists in my drop-downs within my patient notes or within their cumulative profiles. Then I would hit Save and Close, and those changes would be updated. Now, obviously for hypertension, I probably want to keep that one, so I'm going to remove the end dates so that I don't mess up my own database, but I am going to change the ICD-9 code to 401. So we'll say Save and Close. What happens if I don't like some of these, like critical hypertension, for example? Is that likely to be something that I'm going to use in my clinic? Now keep in mind that all these decisions are clinic-wide decisions. So if I make changes here, they affect every single user in my clinic, so I want to be mindful of that when I decide what I'm going to do. But in this case, I think it's unlikely that I'm going to have critical hypertension in many of my patients' problem lists, so I could go ahead and end date that. Now, it doesn't go away. Somebody else could always say, well, I actually do need that, and come in and take out the end date, and it would reappear for you to choose. So I've done that. I'm going to hit Save and Close. Okay, now you'll notice when I'm searching, if I redo that search, the hypertension critical has gone away. Okay, but if I want to find it again, I can click on Include Inactive and re-hit the search, and you can see my hypertension critical is back here. So they're not gone, they're just hidden. Okay, so now what happens if I want to add a new one? Well, if I need to add a new type of hypertension, for example, hypertension, having difficulty coming up with an example, but we could say hypertension nurse managed, for example, if that was relevant to your clinic. We click on the plus button, we put in a description. Again, keep in mind this is absolutely clinic-wide. So we say hypertension nurse managed. And maybe that has meaning for you in terms of the workflow within your clinic. I put my ICD-9 code in here so I can actually use the search on one side. Okay, and that doesn't appear to be working very well. So we'll put in 401. Yeah, that doesn't seem to work too well. So, but I know that hypertension is a 401. I can put in 401.0, 401.9, whatever it is I choose to do, or just plain 401. And that's what we'll do here. We'll just put in plain 401. Okay. And then I save and close. And if I rerun my search, we can see that hypertension nurse managed is now available in our problem list. Okay? Since that's one that I've created, if it turns out that I've made a mistake, it will allow me to delete it. But again, this is clinic-wide. Okay? However, you can't delete the ones that Wolf has already put in place. So if you wanted to go ahead and make a favorite problem list, how could you go about doing that? Well, in the old days, you could edit the names and put an asterisk before the ones that you wanted to make your favorites for the clinic. But now the best way to do it that I'm aware of is to use the ICD-9 code. So if you want to go ahead and do this, now keep in mind that it will remove ICD-9 codes from some of the other billing items in your screen, but the idea is that we try to use similar vocabulary all the time so that when we're building searches based on chronic disease, we know what we call hypertension, that we call type 2 diabetes, and not NIDDM, for example. So we want to use consistent language. And let's say that this hypertension is the one we want to use. So in that case, what we can do is we can go in, make sure this one has the 401 code linked to it. Okay? And we can go in and remove the ICD-9 code if it's the same one. So if it's a different 401, we can go in and remove that from other ones. So for example, hypertension query, it doesn't have an ICD-9 code in it because I don't want it to show up in for patients where I'm looking for hypertensive patients. Gestational hypertension, again, doesn't have one. Okay. Hypertension controlled, again, doesn't have one because that's not our preferred vocabulary. Okay. Hypertension history and family, again, doesn't have one. So you can go in and you can look at removing your ICD-9 codes from all but your preferred vocabulary. Now here we've left it here because hypertension systolic is something that we may want to continue to use, differentiating from just generic run-of-the-mill hypertension. So we've left it in here, but if we did want to remove it, we just go in, hit delete, and hit save and close. Okay. And the way that works now is that when you're entering a problem into the problem section of a SOAP note, type in your 401 and it will come up and show you just the preferred vocabulary items. Okay? I don't believe I can show you that right now, unfortunately, because confidential information will come up in between. But if you're entering just in the assessment part of your SOAP note, then just type in 250, hit enter, or 401, hit enter, and it will give you a list of your favorite problems to use. All right? Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.